Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the confidence architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Awesome. Woo woo. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. I'm excited for this guest. I'll tell you what, she was been on my calendar. I'm excited to have her on here to bring the new year in. She's going to really add value to a lot of the women. We had her at our event at the Finding Your Inner Beauties Women's Conference here this past October, and she was an amazing, amazing vendor. Just spoke on stage too, and not only that, she really just has a loving heart. So let's welcome to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, Miss from San Antonio, Texas, Miss Jen Hardy. Woo woo! Welcome, Miss Jen. How you doing?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'll tell you what, I know the amazing person you are. You're actually a pretty badass when it comes to self-defense. That's why I wanted to get you on here to give all these women just that hope and encouragement. But tell the audience of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, who is Jen Hardy?
Oh goodness, who is Jen Hardy? Oh, that's a loaded question. But who is Jen Hardy? Oh man. Well, the way you know me, I'm the executive director of Dangerously C.U.T.E, which is a nonprofit that is teaching women self-defense. Our mission is to break the cycle of disempowerment and violence against women by teaching them to be their own first line of defense. But I am also a female empowerment coach one-on-one and a master certified NLP trainer. I'm also a fitness coach. I'm also a stylist. So I'm a lot of things. But who I really am is just a woman who's out to support women to discover and unleash their power and be who they want to be now, right
Well, I sum all that as, you know what? You're a badass. I'm going to give you a
now.
woo. Yeah. She's a bad. Think of what she said, ladies and gentlemen. She's an NLP. She helps women and she's a one-on-one coach. And, you know, I just wanted to add value to our audience and bring you on here because I think you bring so much. Just hearing your heart. My wife always talks about you and she always says, Jen, Jen. I go, who is this Jen lady? And then I meet you in person in October this past year. And I said, what a way to bring the new year with one of our episodes
Mm.
being with Jen and just really, where did you come up with the name Dangerously Cute? Because for those that don't know, Dangerously Cute is her nonprofit, but what Jen does, how I know her, is she helps women practice self-defense. And she supported us this past year in 2021, where they did a fundraiser, but you were actually helping women to defend themselves. Talk to us about that. How do where did you get that amazing name? I like it, right? Dangerously Cute is like, hey, I'm cute, but don't mess with me because I'll get you, I'll get you on the back end there.
That's right. Yeah, well, actually, my younger sister, who is the VP of Dangerously Cute, she actually came up with the name of it 15 years ago. So interestingly enough, this program's actually been around for 15 years in San Antonio with my father and my sister utilizing the information and getting that out to women. But it was purely a seminar program and kind of sporadic. And then I moved back to San Antonio about 3 years ago. And in the literally the like 2 weeks before COVID, March 6th, we got the notification that we were officially a 501(c)(3) and we're like, yay. And it was like, oh, COVID. Oh man. But Dangerously Cute, it started with her, and then I evolved it a little further into an acronym, which CUTE actually stands for courageous, unwavering, tenacious, and empowered, which are some of the pillars of what we want women to get from being a part of our seminars or small group trainings, where yes, we are teaching them to be their own first line of defense, which in this case is learning some basic self-defense, but also kind of weaving in that NLP and that coaching into it, in that, sometimes for women just stepping in to learn how to strike something, it's not even that they can't physically do it, like the mental concept of hurting something is like, ugh. And so there's way more than just the physicality of learning self-defense. It's very mental as well.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, this is the part of the show where we tell you, get out your pen and papers because Jen's going to drop some even more wisdom. Something magical happens, and Jen knows this, right? Because he teaches NLP. Something
Mhm.
magical happens when you put pen to paper. I'm going to say it again. Something magical happens when you put pen to paper. So if you're going to do anything new in 2022, whenever you come to a conference, whenever you hear a podcast, get out a pen and paper. I would even dedicate a journal to a podcast to just learn and write down the notes because Jen's going to drop some wisdom. And guess what? You want to catch every single golden nugget because it's going to help. She's going to help change your life. So going back to the cute name, I heard what you said, courageous. The C was for courage. I like courage. I think so many times we don't act because of fear. Right? I
Mm.
believe that the successful people in life act in spite of fear. How do you go about helping women to really act in spite of fear, to be courageous? Let's talk about that C first of all.
Yeah, well, for me, courage is actually just the realization that something is more important on the other side of the fear. And when we're talking about self defense specifically, the easiest way to start to draw that out is their loved ones. We work with a lot of moms. And so it's really easy to draw out that courage, the fierceness that's underneath there by evoking the possibility of someone that they love being in danger and what do they need to do in there. And but also, just like I said, evoking the fierceness. I mean, women, we are primarily in our primal nature nurturers, but we're also fierce beasts underneath there when you mess with our families. And so it's allowing them to recognize that you are a nurturer at heart. That's who you are at your primal nature, but you are also the fierce protector when it's necessary. And that really does allow them in this specific situation with self-defense to start to kind of unleash that beast, if you will, and discover that courage to be bold and brave and fight back.
So would you say you kind of tap into their alter ego, right? I think we all have that. It's kind of like Superman, I guess, ladies and gentlemen. I guess this is, Jen can correct me if this is, if I'm going off on a limb, so you can correct me, right? But think of Superman, right? Every mom is a nurturer. Clark Kent, dorky guy with the glasses. You're a nurturer, right? Not calling mom's dork, but I'm just kind of going with the
No, I
story.
got it.
And then when Superman needs to come out, the glasses come off, right? Just think about that and woo, let's go into Superman mode. Is that what you're saying? Kind of like that alter ego comes out, that superhero in us. Is that what you draw out as a woman?
I mean, that's definitely a way to say it for sure, is that alter ego. I mean, some women do need to tap into the idea of an alter ego to, again, be okay with the idea of the possibility of hurting someone. It's interesting. Like, we're in a self-defense class talking about someone who's trying to possibly hurt them. And then we're teaching them how to have to injure them enough to get away. And they're like, so often it's like, but I don't want to hurt them. And it's like, honey, they're trying to hurt you and the people that you love. Like, they don't deserve your grace at this point in time. So it's, yeah, they definitely have to tap into something that many of them haven't tapped into before. On the flip side of that, there's some women who are already like, they're like in there and they're like, oh, let's go, let's go, let's go, I'm ready to go. And like, so those women, I'm like, I need you to be here to support the other ones to pull that out. Like, it's your job to help us pull her out in this moment and have her discover that for herself.
So how did you, Jen, yourself use being courageous to help you in your life and your business? How have you used the ability to tap into that courage inside of you, that alter ego, to really take it to the next level in life and business?
Oh, goodness. Well, something you don't know about me is I was a public educator and a varsity soccer coach for 12 years. And I used to be absolutely terrified of public speaking. I'm talking like sweaty palms, red face, the whole time. And what did I do but go into public education, which is basically public speaking every day to small people who want to make you wrong on a regular basis. So talking about having to like step into that courage of like, well, I'm here, I have to be who I'm supposed to be in this moment, not only for these students, but then also for my athletes. Because I was a coach I started a brand new program. It was a brand new 4A high school program in a very prolific area of Austin with very talented athletes. It was terrifying. So every day I had to step into courage and step outside of who I may have thought myself to be and into who I knew I could be, and be a role model and be. So for me, it's often, again, who is it that I'm trying to serve and who do I need to be in this moment to have them be who they're looking to be. And for me, again, courage, it's on the other side of fear is something way more important than what's showing up for me right now. And so I think that's really important, is to like look at what's on the other side of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen to what Jen's saying. I love what she's talking about. There is going to come a point when fear is going to come in front of you, but on the other side of that obstacle, on the other side of that daunting mountain, to say, the blessing is there. And you got to focus on the result of what you're trying to obtain. So stop focusing on the obstacles that are in front of you and focus on the goal, focus on the outcome, focus on the result, however you want to engrave that in your brain. Focus on the end in mind. And yes, we all struggle. We all gonna fall, but we're gonna get back up. And I think Jen can attest to that. I think listen to what Jen said. I didn't know this, but she was sweaty, nervous, became this teacher at varsity soccer. And if you would have seen her on stage here this past October, man, she was a rock star. She just like, who's this chick? But it's just things that on the other side of that fear, that's where the blessing is. And so many of us, what are two things that you can teach our audience to become more courageous, Jen, to push through the fear or break down the fear, however you want to word it, to really focus on the end of mind, that result on the other side that they're trying to obtain?
Well, I think you said it beautifully, and we've kind of like bouncing off of each other in different ways to say this, which I love because it'll land for different people different ways. But it is, anxiety is typically focusing on something that hasn't happened yet, right? It's we're focusing on something out there that doesn't even exist, and we're giving all of this energy, and we don't even know if that's going to actually happen, right? It's like the difference between faith and fear is you're giving energy to one thing that hasn't happened yet. Like you can either have faith or you can have fear. They're the flip coin of the same thing. It's just where are you putting your energy? And so I think what you're saying and what I'm saying is get really clear, really specific on what it is that's making you nervous, uncomfortable, scared, fearful, and like for what purpose is that actually making you scared? Like, is it because of safety? Is it you don't want to look bad? Is it you want to make a difference, or you don't want to look stupid? And when you get really clear, like I went to Europe by myself for the first time ever 3 years ago after I left teaching and coaching. My first day there, I had a complete and utter anxiety attack, and I was staying with my cousin, so she was gone, but I was not like alone, and I had an anxiety attack that morning wanting to go out and get coffee. And I had to like just sit there for a minute. I'm like, okay. Like, what are you scared of? Like, what are you really scared of specifically? And I realized I was scared. I was actually just scared of looking stupid because I didn't know the language. It was that simple. It was that simple. And it had me in this spin out whirlwind craziness. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm okay with looking stupid to go experience Paris for the first time. So are we good? Are we okay now? Like, can we move on?
I thought I was saying
go.
maybe she saw Taken before she flew on the jet on the plane over there, and you're like, oh crap, I gotta find a bed to hide under.
Yeah, I'm like, I could take care of myself, so I was okay with that part.
Yeah, well, I love that. So the anxiety's there. How can we cope with that? How can we cope? Wait, it's just negative energy. It's false energy. 99% of the things that we worry about don't even happen.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. Let me say it again. 99% of the things we worry about don't even happen. How does somebody overcome that? Give us some takeaways on how you teach your students, or how you can help us in the audience here at the Daniel Gomes Inspire Show. What are
Yeah.
some tangible takeaways we can take?
I mean, one thing we specifically do, obviously, you have to get specific on what you're anxious about. Like that's number one. And then number two is like you have to you got to play with the imagination a little bit. Like, so we gotta pretend a minute. And I tell them to pretend that imagine that they are 15 minutes past, out in the future, 15 minutes beyond this thing that they thought they were anxious about, and get 15 minutes beyond it being successfully completed, successfully done, whatever that is for them. 15 minutes past. And then I'm like, okay, now that you're out there, turn around and take a look back to now. And they realize like, it's just so absurd. It's so absurd. Because they get out there and they're like, oh, like, first of all, it may not even happen. And secondly, sometimes it's really cool is they'll get out there and they'll imagine it and they'll turn around and look to now and they'll get how absurd it is. And a lot of times they'll gain some resources, or they'll see some people who have been there to support them all along that they just weren't seeing.
When you just said that, I think of the Wright brothers. Think about when I'm not a big history buff, but the Wright brothers, I studied them because they use their imagination a lot to be the first people to fly a plane. And in my book that I wrote, my first book, You Were Born to Fly, I explained how they didn't even know how to fly a plane and they flew a plane. They didn't even know, right? Then think about this.
Yes.
They didn't even know you're in the air, even if it's for a minute. How are you going to land this damn thing? And no one's ever flown no one's ever landed a plane. How do you do it? Well, you got to use your noggin, right? You got to use your imagination. And I
Yeah.
love what you're saying, because as adults, we lose our creativity, we
Mm.
lose our imagination. And what Jen is saying to you right now, ladies and gentlemen, is you have to be like a kid sometimes and just really go back to those days when you would play Batman and Robin, Superwoman, or you would just go out there and just be that princess, and you would see yourself and you would allow yourself to dream without limitations.
Hmm.
We forget to, we shut down our limitations. I mean, our imagination so many times, Jen. And I love what you're saying, because if you can imagine, if you open up your imagination and you listen to what Jen says, and on the other side of that anxiety, and you just envision and you imagine yourself, close your eyes in the victory, right? In victorious and whatever it is. Maybe it's for you to go out there and buy a new home. Maybe it's for you to sign up for Jen's class and to really defend yourself because you had, you
Yeah.
were in a relationship that didn't serve you. It's part of life. It could be losing weight, whatever it is. We all start somewhere, but I can promise you this, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. There's a starting point, there's a starting line to everything. And like my friend said the other day here, Ken, he said, right, so many times we're worried about we're making touchdowns. No, just get a first down, just get a small win.
Hmm.
And Jen is saying that, just envision yourself. Because how powerful is imagination? How powerful has imagination been in your life, Jen?
Oh goodness. I mean, it depends on what you believe and how you want to believe. But I mean, if you have any concept of and believe anything about manifestation and creating the life you want, imagination is literally the key. I mean, uh, there is science proving that our brain, our literal brain, does not know the difference between what's real and what's not. And we know this when you think of like something like night terrors, right? People can wake up from a night terror, and I mean, they're having those literal attacks of terror and anxiety and fear because it was so real. Or if you've ever had a really vivid dream that you wake up from and it just felt like you were there, the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not. And because of that, we can truly hone, utilize, play with that to create anything that we want. And you're right. We grow up, we grow up, we grow up, and we're told you can't do that. That's not going to happen. Bad, no, all those things. And that creativity and that willingness to imagine just diminishes and diminishes and diminishes and diminishes and diminishes. But the reality is, if you actually just play, you create your reality, like 100%. Like, sorry, people, but all the things you have that you don't want, you're creating them.
Say that again. Say that. That's a boom right there. I got to give you a, woo, that's a quote. We're going to put that one in the quotable. Say that again, Jen.
All the things that you have that you don't want, you're creating them. But
Yes.
then, in fact, also all the things that you do have that you do want, you are creating them. We create our reality.
Yeah, it's amazing you say that, because me and Mari, we do a vision board every year that's one of the things we do in December, the last week of December, the first week in January. And
Hmm.
when we moved into our new house here that we're in about a year and a half ago, it didn't snap. We moved in here in July, and when just with the chaos of moving, we put our vision boards aside, never really hung them up. And then when we came to do our vision boards, like 4 months later, 5 months later, I'm thinking like, hey, hon, check this out. Like, she's like, what? Like, this is our driveway. She's like, what? And then Madi had it right, because she has her own vision board. I have my own. She was like, this is our kitchen. Like, everything was manifested because we would look at these vision boards, and they're powerful because, right, your imagination pictures this. We're actually creatures of we taking over 1 million optics a second. Think about that, over 1 million optics a second, because we're visual beings. We're visual beings. If you think about that, all this that we intake, it conditions us, and the dominant pictures in our minds is what we gravitate towards, and we don't realize that. So what Jen is saying is how powerful our imagination is that when you get that picture in your brain doesn't know whether it's real or not, or whether what it is, but you gravitate towards that picture, and you're
Absolutely.
manifesting, you create it. So why not manifest success over that fear that's keeping you, and use that courage like Jen is talking about? And guess what? The result's going to definitely be different than what you've had. So I'm loving what we're talking about. God, I should have brought you on a lot earlier, Jen.
I love talking about all this stuff. So,
Yeah. Well, let's shift here because
okay.
everybody's like you're successful, you're amazing. You have this very nonprofit, but tell us a time, when did Jen Hardy lose her confidence? What did she do to regain it? And what did you learn about yourself?
Oh goodness. I mean, I would say the majority of my life until about 5 years ago.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was, oh gosh, talk about fake it till you make it for a very long time. The fear in public speaking and working with kids, that just exacerbated all the things I was already feeling of not being worthy and not being enough, and not being smart enough, not being talented enough, like all of these different stories that were there. I mean, I'm the type of woman who for very, very many years would sit at the bottom of my shower and just bawl most days, or sit in my driveway with my car blaring a certain type of music, just bawling. And it was just this utter sense of lack of self-worth, just no connection with friends and family. I had been pushing my family away for decades. I just felt very alone at my core, but I also externally would just push people away. It was this wonderful conundrum of we could dig into much further of all I want is love, but also all I want to do is push it away because it's scary and people are going to hurt you anyway. And um, but yet I had to be this coach and this teacher, and I won state in the middle of all of that. I took my high school team to and won state, first time in 32 years of UIL's existence for an Austin area team to win a state title, and I was only a 5-year head coach. So I was still able to step out of these things, but every day, no one would ever have known that. My athletes would tell you, no way, there's no way that's who she was. And I drank a lot at the time as well. Definitely drank a lot. Realized that was my way of drowning it. Like there's so many ways of numbing how we're feeling, right? I mean, some people numb it with alcohol and drugs. Some people numb it with food. Some people numb it with too much exercise. Some people numb it with Netflix and chill. It's all the ways of how do we not feel what was really feeling. And what I realized, my first step into all of this was recognizing that being willing to feel all of the things that I didn't want to feel, and being willing to take responsibility for the way my life was going, even if it was going to be really yucky and I was going to have to own up to some stuff, was exactly what was in the way of everything I wanted. Everything I wanted was on the other side of feeling everything there was to feel and taking responsibility everywhere there was to take responsibility, and just get on the other side of it. And it was yucky. It was not fun. I had to wade through some muck to get there and clean up some relationships and do a lot of inner work. But now, like you said, like I love the chance to jump on stage, for example. You saw me, I was like, I get to get on stage. Okay. Like I love it. I'm like, this is where I belong, right? Being a teacher and a coach, I used to resist it. And now I'm like, oh, this is who I am. I am a teacher. I am a coach. I am a leader and inspiration. It just, I wasn't in the way I was. And I had so many conflicting stories. It was like, how do I get there? And the way I would say this all happened, how it all switched was, first thing I did jump into Landmark at first, and I really enjoyed that. And it made a big drastic shift in my perception of my reality. And then I got into NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, took myself through getting master certified in all of those and becoming a trainer of NLP myself so I can train others. And now I mean, it's funny because I used to own a home, made decent amount of money as a coach, was super successful. I probably currently make about a half of what I used to make, if I'm honest, but I am building a brand new business. um, and I live with my sister in her one of her rooms right now, where many people could be like, you're 40 years old and that's where you're at. And I'm like, yeah, and I love my life. I
Well, I
love
give you credit.
my life.
I love it because I was 44 years old when I made my move. I was making $250,000 a year, and I walked away from it to take care of my wife.
Mm,
And what you just said is right. You had inner confidence in yourself. Obviously, God was speaking to you some way, somehow, because for me, when I made that decision to leave, it was people were like, "You're crazy. Like, hire somebody to take care of your wife." I'm like, "No, she's my wife. Like, I need to honor my vows."
mm,
And then my intentions were to go back into the automotive industry. And God says, I never forget, I was going to the tire rack and I just found this old email from an old counselor because I would go and speak to students sometimes. And I just started crying when I read this email. And God says, that's what I want you to go do. I'm like, speak? He goes, you're going to be a motivational speaker.
Nice.
And everybody thought I was crazy. 44 years old. I thought my Marty didn't tell me this at the time, but she tells me now. She goes, "I thought you were stupid." She goes, "Oh my God." I'm like, "What are you thinking?" Because she had just had her double mastectomy. I mean, literally, when Marty started her journey of breast cancer, I started the journey of our business, and look at where we're
Wow.
at.
Mm.
But I say that because somebody's listening right now, Jen, and maybe they're 37, maybe they're 38, maybe they're 40 like us, maybe they're in their 40s, maybe you're in your 50s. You're never too old.
Never too old.
Somebody needs to hear that again. You're never too old, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what Jen just said. She walked away from a very successful career as a varsity soccer coach, took her team to state, a lot of prominence, a lot of accolades go with that, a lot of recognition. But she worked on herself, did a transformation. Now she's pouring into women. She supports our nonprofit, the Mighty Strong Foundation, giving back. She's changing women's lives as of right now because the money that they donated to our nonprofit, we've been able to help many women just buy groceries and pay for radiation. And that's what she's doing. And you're saying, but yeah, but she's living with her sister. I'm like, yeah, but guess what? She's moving forward. She's making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
She's not looking at the immediate gratification. So many times in life, Jen, I think so many times we look at the immediate gratification. And I can promise you, at the pace you're going, man, by next year at this time, you're going to be passing what you made as a teacher and even then some.
Absolutely.
Because I know that because that's where we're at. I remember it's like, oh, yeah, well, it is what it is. But when you honor God, when you put God first, when you honor yourself, when you honor your family, then you put business, it's going to work out, right? I always believe that. It's my motto. Your business ain't doing good. God, family, then business. Which one are you putting in front of your business, your family or God first? And people don't get it. People don't get
Ugh,
it.
I
So,
agree.
so what did you really learn about yourself at that moment? You said something that I want to circle back to, but I want to finish this part off. What did you learn? What did Jen Hardy learn about herself through this leaving your position, starting what you're doing, getting your certifications? What did you learn about you?
Um, Geez, definitely more resilient and strong and courageous than I even realized, and uh, more inspiring to people than I realized. Like again, here I was leaving everything to go do, had no idea what was going to happen, and I had quite a few girlfriends reach out to me and just be like, you're an inspiration, like, going for what you want to go for, and not worrying about anything else, and just stepping out and going for it is truly inspiring. But I also learned that I definitely learned what we talked about earlier, that I had been creating my own reality. I had been creating everything that I didn't want. Um, I didn't have a relationship with my father, with my sister, with my mother. Oh gosh, my mother and I were so volatile with each other. I didn't have any close girlfriends, and now, like, I lived with my best friend for 2 years, and I worked with my dad and my sister, and I mean, like, that just, I discovered that all the things that I thought to be true weren't true. That I'm not valuable, I'm not lovable, I'm not smart enough, I'm not talented enough. I learned that they are these unconscious stories that we create when we're children, that we then, as we talked about earlier, we have that picture that gets created that just starts attracting more of it to come into our life to prove it to be true when it's not.
Say it again. It's not true.
Ugh, it's not true. The stories that we tell ourselves of all the crap, they're not true, but we keep attracting things to prove them to be true until we realize that they're not true. So again, there's this fun cycle. Um, but I learned, like I said before, I learned I am a teacher, I am a coach, I am a leader. It is who I am at my heart. I love working with women. I love supporting them. I mean, I literally get goosebumps when I'm on stage with my self-defense seminars, when I get a chance to work with 5 people or 50 people or 150 people. When I work one-on-one with women, like, it's exhausting. Like, the energy
Uh-huh.
drain is exhausting. But for 30 minutes to an hour afterwards, I'm literally in my house, like, just dancing, because it feels that good to witness someone have so much transformation. Um, so I think, what did I learn about myself? I am really resilient. We as humans are way more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. We're capable of literally anything we put our mind to. We just have to choose to put our mind to it.
I love that. You said something that caught my attention as you were speaking these last couple of minutes is there comes a point where you have to take a responsibility for yourself.
Mm.
There's some people I feel watching and listening to us right now. And the whole 2021, they never taken responsibility. Their whole life, they haven't taken 2021. They blame it on COVID. They blame it on this. They blame it on that. There's always my mom. It was my boyfriend, my ex-girlfriend, my ex-brother, my sister, whoever. Take a minute and look into the camera and talk to that person, that individual, man or woman, how their life's going to change once they take responsibility for themselves.
Mm. Gosh, responsibility. I mean, people talk about wanting empowerment, wanting to take the reins back on their life, wanting to get control back in their life. It is on the other side of responsibility. And I want to be really clear when I say responsibility, I do not mean that it's all your fault. And I also don't mean it's all their fault. What I do mean is where can you take responsibility? Where can you look at, I may have created this consciously or unconsciously. And it's also the root of forgiveness. Recognizing where I can be responsible. It's not to be confused with acceptance. Forgiveness, it doesn't mean I have to go accept how something's been going and the behaviors that don't work for my life, domestic violence. I can recognize, I can forgive, and I can get all of that, but it doesn't mean I have to accept it and stay. But I can get responsible for where I need to step up in my life and what I'm not doing. And I can promise you, no matter how uncomfortable, how scary, how yucky it is, literally everything you want is on the other side of responsibility. It's on the other side of just recognizing, how did I create this consciously or unconsciously? It's a beautiful place to be willing to go. And it's hard sometimes, and that's okay.
I love that. It goes along with the saying I say is, I create my life. When you
Mm-hmm.
realize that everyone listening to this amazing episode, that you create your life, when you realize that truth, it'll empower you to be like, life doesn't just happen to you. You create it. Say it right now. I want you to say that. I create my life.
I
What
create my
life
life.
have you created for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You want to know what are the results? If you're broke financially, guess what? You created that. If your relationships are not good, they suck, like Jen was saying, right? She had to get real with herself. She worked on that. She had to get real with herself. She created that. But
Mm-hmm.
she chose and she decided and she committed that I create my own life. I don't like the results I'm getting right now. I need to change that.
Mm-hmm.
And she did it.
You know, I feel like there could be people listening, because this is really common, that they're like, well, how do I take responsibility? Like, it might not be that obvious. And I'll offer this very quick version of an example, because
Yes,
sometimes
please.
it's
That's why
not
you're on the
really
show. We
obvious.
want your wisdom.
Yeah. Well, I like using the story about my father, because my father is incredible. He's powerful. He's this leader. He's out to make these drastic impacts in the world. I mean, he created a new program to train police on how to safely and effectively deal with perpetrators and all that, so that things that happened don't happen again. And anyway, he's amazing. But I hadn't told him I loved him in 15 years. And here I am, this basically, I'm 30 something, but I'm also like 5, right? Just wanting daddy to love me, but yet also being like just negative and resistant and all the things. And then I did the work that I did to discover, me not telling my father I loved him was my way of having power over him. It was my way to pull the puppet strings, because he's my father. He loves me. I'm his, daddy's little girl. But I wasn't getting what I wanted. And so I would resist the love. I wouldn't hug. I wouldn't tell him I loved him. I would avoid coming to holidays. It was my way to control unconsciously, because I didn't know this consciously. It was my way to control this powerful human that I can't possibly control. And when I got that, I was like, ugh, first of all. And I called my dad, immediately called him. And I told him, I was like, this is what I just realized. I realized that I don't tell you I love you because I know it's the only thing that I can take away from you that allows me to have some sense of power. And that just grosses me out. I'm like, and I was 35 and I'm like bawling, by the way. And I'm like, I love you. You are my hero. I'm done. I am done not telling you that I love you. I'm done not giving you hugs. I'm done not having a relationship. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm going to shut up so you can talk for a minute. And I'm just going to sit here and cry, and he's like, first of all, I'm really glad to know you're doing some work for yourself, and thank you. He's like, I thought you didn't want me to tell you I loved you anymore. Like, talk about realization of creating your own reality. I was like, oh God. And he's like, yes, I want a relationship. Yes, I want to spend more time together. Yes, I want us to, move on and move forward and create something. That conversation took 5 minutes and it changed the rest of our lives. It can be that simple. It is not always that simple, but it can be that simple.
That's powerful. It could be as simple, ladies and gentlemen, right now. It's just making a phone call and doing what Jen just did. Think about it. It's January 2022. Are you going to keep in the same old vicious cycle of insanity? And we all have heard it before. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Another way I can tell you is if nothing changes, nothing changes. Simple as that. If nothing changes in your life, nothing's going to change. Mm-hmm. So what are you willing to change? Who do you need to call this January right now, 2022, and tell them that you love them? Jen didn't share that story for no reason. I believe it was God's divine appointment for somebody listening to this episode. Jen, man, I'm loving your interview here. You're just an amazing guest. Wow, I don't want it to end. What is a scripture or a quote you lean on in a time of adversity? A scripture or a quote that you fall back on when times get tough, that you can't use your drop kick or a punch?
Honestly, the biggest one, and I don't even know if it's whatever, leap and the net will appear. It's so simple, and it's been there since I left teaching and coaching, because that's how I felt. I was taking this drastic leap and I had no idea if there was a net to catch me or if I was even going to need one. But it was like, you know what? I'm just going to jump and I'm going to trust that the net will appear if I need it. And
so what was the quote? I missed that. Leap and the net will appear?
Leap and the net will appear.
I love that. I've never heard that before.
What's funny is I saw it on my first solo trip to Portland, Oregon, and it was on a greeting card at it's the bookstore that's that's like infamous in Portland. I can't remember the name of it, of course. But it was just this little greeting card that said it, and I took a picture of it, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's
wow. It. You've been amazing, Jen. How do we get a hold of you? Want to talk to you? Somebody's listening to this, like, who's this Jen chick? I want to get to know her. How can they find you?
I don't have a website yet because I'm still working on that. But you can find me through the Dangerously Cute stuff pretty easily. The DCWSD.org is our website. DCWSD_SATX is our Instagram and Facebook. I also have a Facebook group that's called An Unstoppable You. And that is also my Instagram handle, An Unstoppable You. So you can get me if you go to any of those platforms and shoot a message or a DM. I will be there. I will get it. I have my Calendly link on those as well to be able to set up a complimentary session and just talk and just see where you're at in life and what you might need.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Reach out to her. She's been an amazing guest. Go to IG, Unstoppable. Join her Facebook group. She's real. She's loving. Jen, it's been a great pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for joining us here. And what a way to bring in a new year. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for another amazing episode here of the Daniel Gomez Inspires Show. If you're stuck in life, if you're stuck in business, guess what? Go to danielgomezglobal.com. Take our free assessment for entrepreneurship. I was voted by the grace of God top 20 executive coach in San Antonio, so I can help you get results in your business because I understand money. I understand financial. So sign up for our complimentary discovery session of 45 minutes. It will change your life. It will change your business. And most important of all, every coach has a coach. So we all need help. Remain teachable, remain help, right? Stay teachable, stay coachable, and your life will go further. So if you need help, reach out to us with our show to fit coaching at danielgomezglobal.com. Until next week, we'll see you here again on a Daniel Gomez Inspire Show with another amazing guest like Jen Hardy. Thank you once again, Jen, for joining us. Have a great day, everybody. This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to danielgomezinspires.com and get your copy today. That's danielgomezinspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.